These are the top 10 god rolls of Lightfall. Lightfall has been out for over 2 months now. We now know the most meta-defining weapons and the exact rolls that you want on these weapons. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it and look at the top 10 weapons. Starting with the first one, we have the Iterative Loop. Now this fusion rifle is completely nasty in both PvE and PvP. The god roll for PvE, a lot of people will be looking for is Compulsive Reloader and Volt Shot. You could also use Lead from Gold and Volt Shot though, and it depends on the exact roll you want. We're going to go with Accelerated Coils, a Fluted Masterwork, and a Fluted Barrel rather, and a Charge Time Masterwork. Now in PvP, you'd go with something more like Under Pressure and Elemental Capacitor. This thing is super lethal right now, and again in both, and is definitely worth crafting the god roll of this bad boy for both PvE and PvP. Next, we're going on to the Death's Razor Sword. Now, if you haven't seen my video yet, this thing is a DPS machine, and I know a lot of people are using rockets right now, or whatever it is. Comment down below what you're using for DPS on big targets, on bosses, etc. But Death's Razor is super nasty. We're able to melt Riven pretty easily with this. We have Surrounded, we have Duelist Trance, we have Tireless Blade, and we have Jagged Edge. Definitely worth snagging the red border frames for this from the helm and being able to craft this thing. Moving on to the next one, we have the Harsh Language. A little bit harder to get with the way it drops inside Lightfall right now, but right now with a Wellspring and Repulsor Brace roll, you'll have so much fun clearing so many different adds. Next season will be more destabilizing rounds because the artifact mods will change, so you'll probably want this roll right here for next season and future seasons beyond because we won't have any of those volatile rounds and stuff. And we also have high velocity rounds on the god roll and quick launch and a reload speed masterwork. This thing is very, very nice. Next up, we'll talk about the Nessus Ablation Slug Shotgun. Now, obviously, a lot of you out there probably have Philo, and you understand how strong Philo is. First in, last out. It's an arc slug. Well, this has almost the exact same roll, or a comparable roll in a lot of ways. We have Reconstruction and Vorpal. This will obviously be very comparable to your Heritage shotguns out there. With Reconstruction Vorpal, you can do insane damage, especially if it's Void Surge or if it's Shotgun Surge. This thing is so nasty with Assault Mag, Fluted Barrel, Handling Masterwork. You can also get the Adept version of this. It's not entirely necessary, but it is a little bit nicer because of the extra mods that you can slap on this bad boy. And it is definitely one of the top 10 god rolls you want to snag inside Lightfall. Moving on to the next one, we will now talk about the Unwavering Duty Adept Machine Gun. I know a lot of you are like, wait, what? Is this thing really that good? This thing is actually insanely good, especially when you have things like Solar Surge or Machine Gun Surge inside the game. Subsistence and Killing Tally basically makes it so that you don't have to reload this weapon. You can just kill enemies, and as you kill the red bar enemies, it refunds more ammo than you end up using a lot of times, and so basically you just have a full magazine for the entirety of most encounters. So Killing Tally, Subsistence, Appended Mag, Fluted Barrel, and Handling Masterwork roll is very nice, and we're putting this in the top 10 god rolls from Lightfall. Obviously, we are excluding some exotics because, well, there's no exact god rolls for exotics. You know, there's a few exotics that technically do have random rolls, but for the most part, exotics have static perks on them, so we're going to exclude those from Lightfall, but there are definitely some good ones out there, right? Winter Bite, obviously. Next up, we're going to talk about Imperial Decree. Now, notice I didn't put Astral Horizon in the top 10 because Imperial Decree kind of outclasses it, and getting the god roll is just so much easier. We have Threat Detector, which can be the enhanced trait. We have Opening Shot. We have Accurized Rounds. We're going with Corkscrew Rifling. Some others might go with Barrel Shroud, but I'm purposely going with Corkscrew Rifling to get a little more range and handling and stability. Get 15 stats instead of the other, and it's kind of nice to have a little bit more range on this bad boy. We're gonna go with the Handling Masterwork overall, and this is a really nice god roll for PvP. All the others that we've previously mentioned were PvE god rolls, but this will be the first one that's in the top 10 for PvP this season. And the next one is also another PvP weapon. We have the Autumn Wind with Rangefinder, Elemental Capacitor, or Rangefinder and Headseeker. This thing is extremely strong, 540 RPM. Pulse Rifle is absolutely deadly inside Crucible. If you can get a roll like this, I'd be so jealous. Look at all these different perk options that you possibly can get, though. Makes the chances of getting this god roll very tough, but every time you reset your Valor rank, every time you play more Crucible, you get more perk options, so hopefully you can land a god roll comparable to this one before the season's up. Rangefinder, Ellicap, Ricochet Rounds, Arrowhead Break, a Stability Masterwork is insanely good and will absolutely melt people inside the Crucible. Next, we'll talk about the Roar of the Bear. And I know a lot of people will be wondering, why were we talking about this? The Hothead is so much better. Well, the Hothead is better objectively, especially with like Demo Explosive Light or Auto-Loading Explosive Light, or even with Clown Cartridge for that matter. But it is an arc rocket, and Roar of the Bear is a solar rocket. And sometimes, depending on the surges, you actually want to use a solar rocket because you'll benefit from that plus 25% damage. And when doing so, the Roar of the Bear is the best solar rocket in the game. And so if you can get this Demo Lasting Impression roll, no Explosive Light unfortunately, This is definitely really strong. Now keep in mind, obviously, a lot of bosses in Destiny 2, for whatever crazy reason, Bungie is obsessed with immunity phases. We need to get them to stop making immunity phases on all the bosses. They have so many different immunity phases lately. Lasting Impression can be a little bit frustrating because it will proc a few seconds late and do no damage at all. But if you have the timing right, you can sometimes utilize this well, and you can actually shoot Lasting Impression before the boss is damageable, making up for that delayed detonation. Either way, Lasting Impression is still a really strong damage perk to pair with Demolitionist. Is really, really nice, especially for the Solar Warlocks out there. Impact casing on this bad boy, quick launch, and handling masterwork is easily one of the top 10s from this season. Next, we'll be talking about the Raconteur. Now, although I'm not really using this a lot myself personally, this is a really unique bow in that it's the best stasis bow in the game. And considering it's the best of its archetype, the best stasis bow in the game, we should definitely put it in the top 10 because you're going to want to have the God roll, because there may be a time and place when you need a stasis bow. And if you ever needed a stasis bow, this is the bow. With Archer's Tempo, Explosive Head, Compact Arrow Shaft, Elastic String, and a Draw Time Masterwork, this thing is very, very good. Now we're almost down to the bottom of our list here. And so what I'm going to do is, some of these are going to be more notable mentions. They're not going to be what you'd kind of expect. I'm going to kind of break down a few little other weapons that should be mentioned here. One of them is Round Robin. A lot of people have been hyping this thing up throughout the season. It is an extremely good 120. It doesn't break the meta by any means, but a lot of people really enjoy hand cannons in the game, and 120s do have a really nice place inside the Crucible, so I will give a notable mention to that. And then we'll also mention the Immortal. Of course, this thing is absolutely busted right now. I don't even need to talk about this. That's why I didn't put it number 1, because everyone knows that this thing is so unbelievably strong. We're going with rangefinder, target lock, ricochet rounds, either full bore or hammerforged rifling, and a ranged masterwork. So strong, but there is a new contender, and that is the Tidal SMG. This thing is about to come out with Guardian games, and this thing actually has more zoom than other 750s. You'll notice that the base zoom is at 15 down here, and with 15 zoom, this adds a significant amount of range and might very well outclass the Immortal. We won't know at the time of recording this video. We won't know if it truly outclasses it until we get it in the game, but I'm thinking it might be really strong, and that's probably the reason why Bungie will eventually nerf 750s, like they said, with Season 21. So I think the last 3 weeks might just be Tidal SMG spam weeks. We'll see. We'll see if it actually outclasses the Immortal. We don't know for certain, but it would definitely be very interesting. And the last one we'll mention will be the Taraxipos Scout Rifle. This thing actually has some interesting roles. We won't know if this will be properly meta-defining, but we do have Gutshot Straight and Explosive Payload on a Strand 200 RPM Scout Rifle. Definitely looks enticing, and when I do get an update, I'll definitely make sure to give you that notification. So make sure you're subscribed here with notifications on. I'll keep you up to date on all things Destiny 2. Let me know, do you agree with my top 10 list for Lightfall God rolls? Do you have any of these God rolls? If you do, which ones do you have? Which ones are you still chasing? You got roughly 3 weeks left until the end of the season. Make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Smash the like button. Later.